They say you can't choose your family, but I never chose to be born to people who looked at me like I was something to be wiped off the floor. When I got pregnant at 19, the disgust in my mother's eyes hardened into something permanent. My father didn't even say my name for a year. And when my son, Caleb, was born, my sweet boy with soft brown eyes, they called him it for the first 6 months. Don't let it cry near my room, Mom would hiss. I'm not raising garbage again. We lived in the small unit behind their house. It was supposed to be temporary, but 5 years later, we were still there, Caleb and me, surviving on leftovers while my sister, Mon, got steak and wine at every family dinner. I worked night shifts at the grocery store, came home at dawn, and tried to keep quiet. Mon talked about her vacations and new handbags. I just folded laundry and listened. I endured for Caleb. But last Saturday, something inside me broke. It was our neighborhood's annual block party, string lights between driveways, potluck tables, the smell of barbecue in the air. Caleb had been excited all week. He wore his red hoodie and carried the cupcakes we'd baked together, holding the tray with both hands like it was treasure. Mom was already there, center stage as always, pouring wine like she owned the street. When she saw me, her smile vanished. "You didn't even do your hair," she said loudly. "God, at least pretend you're not the help." I smiled, like always. Caleb went around offering cupcakes. People smiled at him, some for the first time ever. My chest ached with pride. Then he tripped. One cupcake fell and smeared on Mrs. Nae's skirt. Before I could move, Mom's hand shot out. Crack. The sound tore through the air. Caleb stumbled back, holding his cheek, frosting smeared across his face. Mom bent down, gripped his hoodie, and hissed, loud enough for everyone to hear, "Trash deserves it." Then she let go and walked back to the dessert table, calm, collected, grabbing a slice of pie. People stared. Then someone laughed. Mon started clapping. "That's how you handle kids these days," she said. "Spare the rod, spoil the leech." I froze. Caleb didn't cry, he just looked up at me, eyes wide, face burning red. Something in me broke clean in half. I picked him up, turned to my mother, and said quietly, "Are you proud of yourself?" She didn't even look at me. "Don't make a scene," she muttered. "You're lucky we even let you two be seen." And that was it. Dessert went around. Laughter started again. My son's humiliation became a side note at their little party. When my father arrived, he asked, "What did the brat do this time?" Mon smirked. "Nothing, he just breathed wrong." That night, I didn't sleep. I sat beside Caleb's bed, watching his small chest rise and fall. His cheek was swollen, his eyes puffy, but in his hand, he still held one last cupcake, the one that hadn't fallen. "Mommy," he whispered, "did Grandma get mad?" I swallowed the lump in my throat. "No, baby," I said softly, "she made herself mad." That night, I stopped being the quiet daughter. I stopped enduring. I stopped folding my pain into neat corners. Because dessert wasn't the last sweet thing they'd ever taste. The next thing they swallowed would stay with them forever. The next morning, I called out of work for the first time in a year. I wasn't sick, but something inside me had gone sour. I didn't eat. I didn't speak. I just watched Caleb push his toy truck along the windowsill, the bruise under his eye blooming darker with every hour. Every time I looked at it, something in me split wider. At noon, Mon texted, "Don't take it personally. Mom was being funny, you're just too sensitive." 10 minutes later, Mom sent a voice note. "Tell the boy to toughen up. I barely touched him. Drama must run in the family." I played it once, then again, and then I started packing. Not clothes, not toys. My journals. Every diary since I was 13, every page filled with what they did, the hits, the slaps, the names, the nights they forgot to feed me, the parties where they called me the accident, the dinners where they told guests I should be grateful they didn't give me away. I found the box under my bed, Caleb's hospital records from when he was 1, bronchitis so bad he could barely breathe, Mom had refused to drive us. If he's that weak, she'd said, maybe nature's doing us a favor. I walked 5 blocks in the freezing rain to save him. I still had the discharge papers. That week, I went silent. They didn't notice. 2 days later, another message. Over your tantrum yet? We need you to watch Mon's dog this weekend, and bring more cupcakes. They were tolerable. Tolerable, like we were something to endure. I stared at the message for a long time, then I replied, sure, I'll bring something sweet. And I meant it, just not cupcakes. The neighborhood was hosting another block party, a smaller one this time, a do-over. I offered to handle desserts. To make up for last time, I said, my voice calm and steady. Mom texted back, good girl, knew you'd fall in line. That was their mistake. The night before the party, I didn't bake cupcakes. I baked memory. I printed photos from Caleb's first Christmas, the one where no one would hold him. A picture of his bruised arm from the fall on the broken stairs they never fixed. A journal page from the night Dad told me I was only born because Mom forgot her pills and thought another abortion would look bad. I made small cards, handwritten notes from their greatest hits, and tucked each one inside a decorative cupcake box. The next morning, I dressed Caleb, kissed his cheek, and left him with Ms. Esther, the kind retired teacher down the street who always called him her little gentleman. Then I went alone. I arrived early, set up the dessert table, and laid out 20 neat cupcake boxes, each one tied with satin ribbon, truth disguised as sweetness. The neighbors came first. Mon in heels, phone raised for selfies, Mom waving like a celebrity, Dad cracking open a beer before noon, flirting with a woman half his age. None of them asked where Caleb was. Of course they didn't. Mom reached the table, gave a tight smile. You actually tried this time, she said. Good. An apology through baking. That's your place. She picked up one of the boxes and read the tag, from our family to yours. Then she opened it. She pulled out the first card and unfolded it. Her smile faltered. I begged you not to scream so loud the night you bled on the carpet. Your father was watching his show. Her lips parted. She reached for the second box. When Mon pushed you down the stairs, we told the ER you were clumsy, but you always were such a liar. I watched her pupils tighten. Around us, the neighbors began opening their boxes. The sound of paper tearing filled the air, and then, silence spread like wildfire. Mon's voice broke it. She'd read her note out loud by accident. We chose you because you were prettier. She's just a sack of depression and bad choices. She froze mid-sentence, color draining from her face. Dad stormed toward me, face red. What the hell is this? I didn't move. I stood by the dessert table. It's dessert, I said calmly. You like sweet things, remember? You think this is funny? No, I said, but you did. Then I pulled out my phone and pressed play. Caleb's small voice filled the air. Mommy, did I make Grandma mad? Then, the sound of a slap. Followed by her voice. Trash deserves it. The crowd went still. Someone whispered, did she really say that? Another, I thought they were just strict. Then quietly, that's abuse. Dad lunged forward, grabbed the speaker, and hurled it across the yard. Enough. Mom screamed, her voice cracking. You'll regret this, you ungrateful little mistake. But I was already walking away. I hadn't come to fight. I'd come to show them exactly what they'd made, and they weren't clinking glasses anymore. They were choking on silence. By the time the whispers turned into shouting, I was halfway down the street. I didn't run. I walked slow, steady, like every step was reclaiming something they'd taken from me. Behind me, I heard chaos, Mon's shrill voice, Dad's threats, Mom's gasps. But what could they possibly defend now? Their masks had melted in front of the people who used to praise them. I turned the corner and saw Ms. Esther's porch. Caleb sat on the swing, holding a cup of lemonade with both hands. When he saw me, his face lit up, a small, unbroken smile that had survived everything. Hey, baby, I said, kneeling beside him. You okay? He nodded. Did Grandma like your cupcakes? I smiled faintly. She got a taste of them. He giggled, not knowing what those words meant. Maybe it was better that way. I sat beside him on the swing. The breeze carried laughter not from my mother's yard, but from other houses, softer and real. For the first time in my life, I didn't feel like a shadow standing outside someone else's story. I felt present, seen, whole. The next day, the video started spreading. A neighbor, a woman I barely knew, had filmed everything. The notes, the recording, the slap. She uploaded it anonymously to a local community page. Within hours, the whole town had seen it. The woman who built her life on reputation, charity dinners, polished smiles, perfect family values, was now the face of a monster wrapped in pearls. Mom called 26 times that week. I didn't answer once. Morn sent one message. You destroyed us. I typed back. You destroyed yourselves. Then I blocked her. Caleb and I moved 2 towns over. Our new apartment had peeling paint, noisy pipes, and a leaky faucet, but it was ours. No insults echoing through the walls. No footsteps of judgment above our heads. Just peace, the kind found in my son humming softly while drawing on the kitchen floor. I found work at a cafe, then another job at the library. Saved every paycheck, every tip, every exhausted hour. And somewhere between the sleepless nights and small victories, I realized something. I hadn't escaped a family. I'd escaped a curse. Months passed in quiet. Then one afternoon, the mailman slipped a cream envelope into my box. No return address. Inside was a folded note and a photograph. The photo showed my mother sitting alone at a cafe table. Her eyes were red, her makeup streaked. The note said, "They stopped coming. No one talks to me now. The neighbors cross the street when they see me. Are you happy?" I read it twice, then set it beside my coffee. I didn't feel happy, not exactly, but I felt clean. On the same paper, I wrote one line back. You beat a child and called it discipline. You humiliated me and called it love. What did you think would grow from that? I folded it, sealed it, and sent it back. No return address this time either. Weeks later, I saw a for sale sign in front of my parents' house. The curtains were drawn, the yard was empty. The family that mocked me for being small, poor, and worthless, gone. That night, Caleb and I baked cupcakes again. He poured too many sprinkles on top, laughing as sugar stuck to his fingers. Do you think Grandma would like these? He asked. I smiled and kissed his forehead. No, sweetheart, I said. These are for people who know kindness tastes better. We sat on the kitchen floor, sharing cupcakes under the soft light of the fridge. Outside, the night was still. Inside, the silence was peace, the kind that doesn't need forgiveness or apology. And for the first time in my life, I didn't feel like trash. I felt like someone who had finally taken it out and left it exactly where it belonged.